Okay. Hi everyone. Is my voice audible? Okay. Hi everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Fluttering with Flutter, with me, Akanksha Singh. I quickly give a short intro. So I am a GHCI scholar this year, and currently I am an open source ambassador for anitabi.org, where I'm part of the project manager team. I'm also the mentor for the Flutter Circle at IGGTW, and I've previously mentored students under Learned Girl and NG Girls. I love hackathons, quizzing, doggos, and memes like everyone else. This is my GitHub username. You can find code to a lot of my Flutter apps, and you can connect with me on Twitter if you have any questions on whatever we discussed today or on Flutter. So we can connect on Twitter later. So yeah, let's move on to agenda. So today's agenda is we're going to discuss like what Flutter is and why Flutter is so popular these days, and then we'll move on to the basics of Flutter like widgets, stateful widgets, stateless widgets, and then layout, etc. And then we'll make a Hello World app, and then we'll make another app that is Harry Potter trivia app. So I hope everyone is excited for making this application and learning more about Flutter. So for those of you who have already installed everything and have the Flutter setup, you can code along with me. And for those who haven't set up things, you can follow this later and code. So yeah, now let's move on to what is Flutter. So Flutter is a cross-platform development framework introduced by Google in December 2018. The stable version was released in December 2018, but it was in development earlier, like since 2015. So it has like just one single code base, which you can use for Android, iOS, and web. All the platform, just one single code base. That is like the best thing about Flutter. The programming language that we use for Flutter development is Dart, which is an object-oriented programming language similar to Java and JavaScript. So you don't really need to learn Dart if you want to work on Flutter, because Dart is pretty similar to other languages, so it will be very easy to understand things in Flutter. If you want to dig deeper and go through that, then I'll show some resources at the end of the webinar. You can go through them and learn more about that. Now let's move on to why Flutter is so popular and why you should learn Flutter. As I told, the best thing about Flutter is the one single code base that you can use for all the platforms. So, and it's also very simple to learn and use. Because the syntax is pretty similar because of the object-oriented programming concepts. So it will take very less time to grasp these concepts and get started with Flutter. And it gives a very smooth experience to developers. You can test your apps and very easily, and there's a very like good documentation is awesome, and there's an awesome community. You can ask questions anytime, and it's very active, so you'll get answers to your problems very quickly. Now, as most of the things, this is like the shortest PPT ever, so most of the things are going to be in code. So let's jump on to that. So I'll quickly show the app that we're going to build today. So let's run this application. So there are like 3 IDEs that you can use for Flutter development. That is IntelliJ IDE, or you can use Android Studio and VS Code. I'm currently using VS Code, and yeah, so let's wait for it to run. So there are 2 ways to create your application. One is from the terminal, where you can just go to the terminal. Till the time it loads, I'll show how to like create your applications from terminal. So you can just go to terminal. Let me zoom in a little bit. I hope my screen is visible to everyone. So by going to terminal, you can easily type flutter create. Okay, so my phone was connected, so I'll try to run this again on emulator. It takes a little bit of time in loading. So yeah, I was showing how to create your apps from. So when you have installed and everything is set up in your system, you can type flutter create and just the name of your application and just click enter and everything will be created. And you are all done. Another way to create your application is to use Ctrl+Shift+P, and here you will get your option to create a new project. So you can just click on that and name your project and start it, working on it. So it's taking a bit time. Yeah, so this is the application that we're going to build today. When we click on get started, so it's a very simple application, quiz application, like some questions will appear, and when you answer it correctly, then there's a tick mark here. And like there are only 3 questions as of now, so I just got 2 out of 3. So the last one was incorrect. So yeah, that's what we're going to build today. Let's start with the hello. Let's start with the hello world application. Let's close this and create a new application. So you have to Ctrl+Shift+P and so let's create a new project. Yes, Praveen, I'm using Linux Mint. Yeah, so we have to select the folder and so this is our hello world, like this is our default application. So yeah, we are all done. So let's understand what are these files. First thing, I think I should just run this so that you know what it looks like and how it works. So this is our default application, and the time it's loading, I'll quickly tell about the files that are created by the Flutter when we create a new application. So as you can see, there's this Dart tool file which has some default files created. We do not have to touch this or .idea file. So there's Android for some like if you want to run your application on Android and you want some specific permission or some specific things on the Android version, then you can make changes here. For those who have already worked with Android, will be familiar with this this kind of structure. We have the Android manifest here, and so you can make changes here. Then there's a build folder, which is created by the Flutter itself. We won't be making any changes here as well. So, and this similar to Android, there's an iOS folder for iOS related or specific changes or permissions that you require. Then we have this lib folder where we have main.dart file. So we will be mostly working here. Most of the files and everything that we're going to create are going to be here. And this is the test for testing purpose for widget test, and anything that you want to later, like that's you can do. Then .gitignore for like the git ignore files that you want to ignore when you commit your code, and metadata and packages, and these are all the default files. Another important file that we will be working with is pubspec.yaml. As you can see, the name of the application is here, a little description, and a lot of things are here in comments. So if you go through this, you'll get a lot of information about the pubspec.yaml and what things are here. You can see the version, environment, and yeah. So there are dependencies. If you require some external dependencies, then we will be adding here under this section. And if we want to add some assets like pictures and fonts, then we will be adding in this section. So yeah, this is our default application. As you can see, it's a very simple app. And when you click on this plus sign, so this increments. Let's go to the code and try to understand. Okay, so this is the plus sign. When you increase it, when you click on it, so this changes. So let's go through the code. So the first thing in the Flutter applications, like the main.dart is a file, like the main file. So here, first thing that we do is import the package, the material package, which provides us all the material design widgets which are already there, like already there by Google, and you don't have to code them from scratch, and they're pretty good, and you can directly use them. So this is the package that we use a lot. And then, as in all the programs, there's a main function. Similarly, we have a main function here where we run this application, and my app is a class here which extends stateless widget. I will explain stateless widget and stateful widgets soon. So everything in Flutter is a widget. As you can see in this application, this is the app part. This is a widget. This text, which is here, it is also a widget. And this floating action button, this text here, everything is a widget in Flutter. So there are types of widget like stateless widget and stateful widgets. The stateless widgets are mostly used for creating the UI. In stateless widgets, if the user performs some action or some event is happening, then there's no change in the stateless widgets. But if there's a dynamic data, then we use stateful widgets. As you can see here, the stateless widget, the my app is a stateless widget, and there's this build method which describes the user interface represented by the widget. This is a build method that we are overriding, and this is returning a material app. This is also a widget, And this widget has some properties, title, theme, and all these properties, and it has a home where we have another widget, my home page, which is a stateful widget because there's a dynamic data. As you can see, when we click on it, there's some changes that are brought on our screen. So that's why we have to use stateful widget. So yeah, that's pretty much. You can like go through this later. When we start coding the Harry Potter one, so you'll get more clarity on what we're doing and what these widgets how these widgets work. So let's quickly delete everything, or maybe just delete this part. So yeah, so the main function is already there where we're passing the main my app. We can create stateless widget. Wait, let me just run that app again. So the first thing that we saw in the Harry Potter trivia game was this home screen, which had this background and a picture in the center and a get started button. So first thing that we're going to build is that home screen. So as there was no dynamic data or dynamic change that was happening in that, so we are going to use stateless widget for the same. So in it's very easy to create we'll easily get the boilerplate code for stateless widget by just typing stl. So here you can get this, and then we can write my app. So this returns a container, which is a widget, but we can have a scaffold. So scaffold is a widget which is, when you click on, like hover over this, then you will get more information about it. So it is it basically designs a container for us which covers the whole screen, and it has some properties like app bar. So you can easily add the app bar, but we did not have any app bar in scaffold like the first home screen, so we're gonna skip that part. So firstly, we will add the background. So yeah, we need an asset folder because we are using some assets, not inside this. We're gonna create a new folder by the name of assets, and we're going to add the assets here. Okay, let me add the assets here. So this was the background that I had used. So I'll just add it here. And I will also add the image that I had used. So this was the image that was there in the center. So now let's start. Now let's make some changes in pubspec.yaml file. We can just uncomment this part, and as the name of the folder is assets, so we will write assets here, and we have to mention the name of our images, that is hp.jpg, and another one is hp.png. So yeah, this is how we add our assets, and now we can use them. So when we save this pubspec.yaml, the Flutter pubget commands is executed automatically by Flutter this in VS Code. So now we have added our assets. Now let's come on to the scaffold. So we can have in scaffold we have the body property where we can add a container widget, because we want to set a background. For setting the background and even the color, container is very helpful because it has some properties like box decoration, so we can make use of that. And let's add decoration. So in container we can add decoration, box decoration. And inside box decoration we can have our image. So inside this we can have our image, which we are getting from assets. So to get image from the asset, we can use asset image, and here we have to pass the address. So it is inside assets folder. So back hp.jpg. So this will set a background. Now let's run this and see what it looks like. Seems like this emulator is creating some problems, so I'll try to close this, and till then maybe we can just code a little bit more and then we can check what our app looks like. So yeah, so box decoration also has this property called fit. We can use let me check. Okay, so this is to define like what is gonna be the fit of the image. We can have box fit dot fill if we want to fill the image in. Now let's so whatever we did till now, so it will just add a background to our application, and then a good thing that you can see here is you get to know like where your ending, where the ending of the container is and where the scaffold is ending. So inside this container we have a background now, and the next thing that we had was a image in center of this image in center, and then we had a get started button. So let's add that as well. So we're going to add that inside the container. So this is our container. We can have a child here. So there are some widgets which have a single child like container, but there are other widgets like row and column which have multiple, which have children. Row can contain a lot of text widgets or a lot of button widgets. So container is a single child widget. So we gonna have just one single child. We can either have a column or a row. So we're gonna have a column here. And column then has multiple children. So for that, we have to write children. And inside this, we are going to add the image and the button, get started button. So we can add the image. So this is the image widget. And similarly, as we did in here, we're gonna do the same thing again, and we're gonna add image from the assets. You can also add images from a network and then pass the URL of the image. If you're using something from internet, you can add that. So here we're gonna pass and then we had a get started button. This is our column, and we have this image widget, and now we're gonna have a get started button. So we can use a raised button for that. It's a widget which will create a button for us. So let's add a raised button here. So raised button has this property on pressed, which we will be using for navigation. And we can also have text here. We have a child. Let me close this. Is everything clear so far? This is taking a lot of time. So I'll just move on to next step. So we have inside the raise button, we can have child, which is a text widget where we can have what we want on our raise button. And then we will work on the on pressed later. Let's first work on the logic, and let's create the screen where our questions appear, and then we can pass on this information here. So let's work on the quiz logic then. So we'll create another Dart file, the name of quiz logic. So as you saw in the demo, it had a question and 4 options. So for that, we are going to create a class, question class, okay, and we're gonna have string, question string. We can have question string for question, and we also need to know what the answer is, what the user selects, and then match it with the correct answer. So we're gonna have question answer. And then we can have options. We can just copy this and change. Totally forgot. Like when you write the widgets, then you use a comma. But when you are like writing the normal program, because this is we are creating the class and we are this is the pure Dart code that we're working with, then you have to like C++, you have to end it with semicolon. So we have to end it with semicolon. We had 4 options. So you can just remove this, 3 and 4. Okay, so this is a question class which has these question string and answer and options. Now we'll create another class which is our quiz logic, and this is going to have a list of questions. So this is our question class, and when we create this list of question object, then this question object, which is going to be the part of the list, will have all these properties, like it will have a question string and question answer and options. So we can create a question list. So this is like we have arrays in C++ and other languages. We have array, and so here we have the list we can create. So we are creating just a list of questions. So how are we going to add a question? So because this is of the type question, this list is of type question. So to add here, we're gonna have a question which was, what is and then we're gonna have the answer, the correct answer, and 4 options. We can have horse, water, and stack. So these are the options. So this is our question. We can have more questions and just copy and paste and add more. So I think the emulator problem is fixed now. We can just save it for a second and go back to main.dart and see what our current status. We can check by clicking here. Till the time it's starting again, we can go back to our quiz logic and make more questions. I think I messed up with some. Okay. So we can add, similarly can add more questions here. Okay. Comment this part for now and run the application. It's creating a problem because of that. Is it working now, Praveen? Okay, there seems to be some problem. Okay. So this happened because we do not have a material app here. So what we can do here is we can have, so material app widget is a widget which is a default widget provided by Flutter. So we are using the material design and material widgets already. So we have to wrap them in a material widget. So that's what we're gonna do now. So yeah, now you can see that it's working. So what was the problem? So we did not add the material app widget. We are using these scaffold container. These are all the material widgets. Then create our own widgets as well, but we have to wrap them in a material app widget. Yeah, so this is how it looks right now. The button is not visible because the color, we have to change the color. So let's change the color. So this is our raise button. If we want to make some changes in the design of the raise button, we can wrap it in another widget, that is container. So to wrap it in another widget, we just have to click on this icon here and then click on wrap with widget, and we can wrap it with a container and then called color. So let's take amber. We have to add a comma. Yeah. So I think it's visible now. It's not as good as it was in the app I showed. And also the size of this Harry Potter image is also a little bigger. We can make it smaller by defining height and width here. So now when we save the widget, okay, so this container will we cannot do that because the container is containing this background and these elements. So we do not have to change the container size or image, but instead we have to wrap this image inside a container and then change the size. Or we can have it in image as well, I think. Let me just define height and width here. So we can ask for the height and width. So now you can see, okay. So yeah, this is happening because we haven't let me just comment this out for now. So this is happening because this container which we used is uh, is dependent on like whatever the height and width. If we give some component, some widget inside this container, some height and width, then all the widgets that are inside this container, they will adapt to that height. So if we want to like expand this container to whole screen, then we have to uh, like make use of another property, that is constraints. And we can use this expand box constraints dot expand property. So this will expand the whole container to whole screen. Now I think it should work. Yeah, now it's working, but the button and the image is like not at the right place. So to bring them at the right place, we are using the column which has image and the raise button. So inside column we have this property main axis alignment. we can set this to center. So for column, main axis alignment is the vertical direction. So if we say main axis alignment dot center, then everything that is inside a column will come into the center of this. This is the main axis, and it will come into center. So yeah, that's our home screen. Now let's go back to quiz logic and let's work on that. So let's uncomment this part, and yeah, we were getting some error here as well because we haven't defined a constructor. So let's do that quickly. What options we can. So yeah, so um, we're not getting any errors. No? Maybe I messed up somewhere in this part. I will copy the question from here again. Yeah. So as you can see now, there's no error. Maybe some mistake in the comma or something. So this is how you can add your questions. Let's add questions from our old code only. Now let's add questions from here only, so that we don't have to type them again. So this is how we create questions, and I hope it's easy to understand everything so far, because this is normal programming concept, like creating classes and objects. So now let's create some functions, because we'll be accessing these questions. So we need some functions for that. The first function that we can have is get question, because we are returning the question from here. We also need to declare a variable, because we want to access the position, like this is question number 1, this is question number 2. So we can have a variable question number. One thing I forgot to tell is we are using this underscore before these variables. In Dart, these underscores are used for creating private variables and private objects. So like we have private, public, and protected in oops. So here we have this underscore. So let's have question number variable. And let's initialize it with 0. So question number 0, and here also it starts with 0, like other languages. The array in arrays we have 0, 1. So here also. Now let's move on to functions. So first function that we're gonna have is get question. So get question is returning a string. So we are returning a question from this questions list, and we have to pass the question number here and dot question string. It's similar to other. Okay, the end is not capital. So yeah, so to return a question, so this questions is our list, and then we go to question number, which is like 0, and from that we are returning the question string. So this is how, by using a dot, you use to access the values in objects and all that, and manipulate them. So similarly we do that in Dart as well. So we have the get question, so we can use this function to get our question. Now let's make get options and get answer function as well. So they are going to be similar. So let's just copy this, and this is for answer, this is for option 1, option 2, option 3, option 4. So let's change the name, get answer. So question number dot question, what was the name, question answer. So we can get answer, and now we want option 1, option 2. Similarly we will change here, and option. So here we're gonna pick option 1, option 1. Now let's copy this for option 2. Okay. Doesn't work in mine, I guess. I'll just control C, control V. Okay. So option 2, option 3, and option 4. Yeah, so this is how we can access our options. So yeah, so this is how we access the answer and question and the options. We need some more functions, like we want to know when the questions are finished, and so we need to have a function for that as well. So we can have a bool function because it tells true or false if the questions are finished or not. So we can create a is finished function. So if our question number, if the question number is greater or equal to questions dot length, then that means it is true, else return false. So this function will tell us if the questions are finished or not. Like we have just 3 questions, so when the counter reaches to 3, then it will tell us that questions are over. So some more functions that we're gonna need is if we want to play the game again, so we need to reset the question number. So we can create a simple function like void reset. So this will just set the question number to 0 again so that we can play it again. So these are the functions that we need in our quiz logic class. We also need another function, like we are traversing and going to the next question. So we'll need one more function for going to next question. So what this next, we can create a next question function for going to next question. So if the question number is less than questions length minus 1, then we're gonna increase the question number. So yeah, so these were all the functions that we needed. Now let's work on the quiz page that had like 5 containers, 1 for the question and 4 for the options. So now let's create another Dart file. Let's create another Dart file. Page. So the first thing that we do in Dart files is to import the material design package. Flutter material.dart. And now because there will be a lot of dynamic data in this, because questions are changing as the user clicks on the answer. So we will be using stateful widget here because there's a dynamic change that's happening. So we will just write STF. So this will provide us the boilerplate code for stateful widget. We can name this quiz page. So this is the boilerplate code. So it has a state. So state in Flutter keeps the state of the widget, and if there are changes that are made, then the state is changing. So rebuild the widgets. So now let's work on this. So here we can have scaffold. We can have a scaffold inside which we can have the containers. Inside the scaffold, we can use a column widget because we had, as I already showed in while creating this application, like this is a column, this picture and this button. So as well, we're gonna use a column which will have a container and then 4 options. So let's create a column here inside body. We can have a column. and column is a multi-child project. So here you can have children. So we are gonna have one container for question and 4 buttons for options. So let's make a container. So this is our container. Let's give it some color. Colors dot and yeah, so this container is for the question. Then we're gonna have 4 options. So they were in rows. So we can have a row here. I'm just creating the basic layout and I'll run this so that you can see what it looks right now. And then we're gonna make the changes and add the logic here. So inside we're gonna have 2 buttons will act as when we click on a flat button, then it will check if your answer is correct or not. So we'll pass that logic here. And inside the child, we can have a text widget where we will pass our question. So for now, options. So now let's just write O1 and let's create another flat button. And let's do the same for this row. So now we have a container for question and 4 flat buttons for. So I will now run this and show what it looks like so far. Let me make this quiz page class as the landing page, because I will move on to on pressed and how to navigate screens a little later. So here we can pass quiz page and we can auto import. So we have to what we're doing here is instead of this running this my app which has the material app, instead of going to the home screen, we are directly going to quiz page to see what it looks like, and then we will add the navigation part in the get started raise button which we have in the home screen. So now let's run this and see. Okay. Seems to be some connection problem. Let me change this here. Let's do the navigation part first. So we have this on pressed null here. So in Flutter, every screen is like a route. Yeah, I think so. We have to let me work on the navigation and see if it works or not. So how are we going to navigate to another screen? So in Flutter, like in Android, we have activity and view controller in iOS. So here we have the routes. So every screen is a route in Flutter. And we use this navigator class for navigating to another screen. So it's like we have classes. So we have this navigator class here, which we can use for. So this has this function called dot push and dot pop for. So this works as like a stack. It'll push that widget tree onto this one, and it'll push it here, this navigator class, and we can navigate to another screen from here. And this dot push function has two arguments. One is context, and another one is material page route, which is the default route that is given by Flutter. We can also create our own, but we're going to use the default one. So material page route has the builder property, which builds the widget tray of the second screen. So here we pass the context, and we go to quiz page. We have to import it here. So yeah, so this is how we navigate. Now let's check if we are able to do that. So I'm restarting it again. Till then, let's go to our quiz page and work on the logic part here. So here we have this container for the question, and inside this container, we're gonna have a text where we will put our question. Sorry, this container has a child, and then we have a text here. The question will appear here when we write the logic. It's loading now. So let's just quickly work on our quiz page and write the logic and everything here. I think we have to restart it again. Let's work on our quiz page then and add the logic here. So we created this class called quiz logic. So here we're going to create the object of quiz logic class. First thing that we'll do is import it. Let's import the quiz logic here. And then we can create an object of quiz logic class. It is same as we do in other languages. Create an object. So we have created the quiz logic object. Now we had a scorekeeper which the tick marks when you answer the correct answer. So those were the icons. So the icons are also widget. So we're going to make a list of widget for that as well. So we can have it here. We're going to declare a widget, list of widget. This is empty. We'll initialize. Okay, now let's click on get started. Seems to be some problem. Okay. So I will fix this later. Let's work on our quiz page for now. So yeah, we are gonna have a list of widgets for keeping our scores. Those will be icons. So we're gonna store inside this scorekeeper list, and then we can have some more variables like for total correct answers and total wrong total questions. So we can have total correct is equal to 0 and int total question is equal to total questions is equal to 0. Now we're going to have a function to check the answer. So we can have void check answer. This function will check if the answer is correct or not. We will pass a string, the value of the option that the user selects. So we will pass a string and then match it with the option, match it with the answer that we get. Because in the quiz logic we define that the second parameter is the answer, the first one is the question, and then we have the option. So we will get the option value when the user clicks on any of the flat buttons. From there, we will extract the value of that option that the user selected and then match it with the answer. And if it's correct, then we will give points. So now let's write this function here. So if quiz logic dot get answer is equal to the value then the answer is correct. So we can print, right. So this will not be printed on screen, but this is for our convenience. This we can view this in terminal. And when the answer is correct, then we want to add a tick mark. So that tick mark will be saved in Scorekeeper. So Scorekeeper is a list widget where we are storing some icons, and we're gonna add an icon here. So we can add an icon. So this icon is also a widget, and this has this property color, which we can set to colors.green. Okay. And when the answer is correct, then we are also going to increase the total correct answers. So here we'll also increase total correct plus plus. And if the answer is wrong, then in that case we will print wrong answer, and we're gonna add a cross sign in the Scorekeeper. So let's just copy that. And instead of check, we can have a close, and instead of green, we can have red. So this is for checking the answers. Now, when we are doing this, we also need to increase the question numbers because we are traversing to all the questions. So what we can do to traverse to the look through the list, we can increase the number of questions. Here we can increase the questions. So this counter will increase, and we will get to know that the question number is increasing, and we will use this to tell the number of questions later. So now we will make use of the isFinished function that we coded. So when the questions are finished, we have to like show some alert or something that the questions are over and you got these many correct answers. So for that, we can write quiz logic dot is finished, quiz logic dot is finished. When this is true, that means the number of questions are over. Then we can just give an alert. So this is a widget for alert. So to use this widget, there's this, let me close this, and let me show you how you can get packages in Flutter. So we have to, if we want to use some external packages, then when we can go to pub.dev, and we are using Rx alert for this. So there's this alert, Flutter alert. So we are using this for giving an alert, kind of like a dialog window. So this is what it does, creates a dialog window, and we're gonna make use of this. So to add the external packages, we can search for the packages on pub.dev, and then you click on installing, and you can see the instructions here. We have to add this dependency in our pubspec.yaml file. So let's go to pubspec.yaml and add this dependency here. This Cupertino icons is also a dependency. After installing, we have to import it as well. So let's import this here. Let's code this alert box. So when the questions are finished, we have to show that they are finished, and this we also have to show the score. So this alert has we have to pass the context and get the title of this alert. If you want to know how to use these external dependencies and what is the code and everything, then you can go to this here. They have, like, you can see this alert with a button. So let's just copy this from here, so don't have to write all that. So let's just copy this here. So we have this alert, and this is alert type.error, but we do not want that. So we will remove this, and the title is finished because the questions are over. And in the description, we can have you have scored the number of answers. So we can write here, you have scored, and then total correct, the variable that we have. This is string. This is we use the sign to get the value from the variables that we're using. So total correct, we can have, you have scored total correct out of total questions, out of total questions. So yeah, so this will show the score, and now we have the dialog button, and in the dialog button we can have maybe play again, because we have this reset function, so we can make use of that here. And we can when we click on this, then it will just I think, yeah, this is fine. Okay, let me just save this quickly. So we are still inside the quiz logic.finished, the if statement. So this alert will appear when the questions are finished, and what we have to do is reset the question number. So quiz logic dot reset will icons, we will clear this, and also make the total correct question 0 and total questions 0 as well. And if the questions are not finished, then what we have to do is to move to the next question. So quiz logic dot next question. So then we can move to the next question. Let's start this. There's no problem with this. So yeah, this is the logic for checking if the answer is correct or not. And we also have to get the questions and the options from our class here, the chat. So now let's write the logic for that. So the quiz logic that we declared, our quiz logic is the object of the quiz logic class, which we are using to get the answer. And we can also, we wrote a lot of functions here, get answer, get question. So we are going to make use of get question for getting the question, and options for getting the options, and then displaying them in the right place, like here. Instead of this, we're going to have quiz logic dot get question. So this will display the question, and then similarly we can have quiz logic dot get option, or quiz logic dot get option 1. Quiz logic dot get option 2. Similarly here, quiz logic option 4. So I think this was not imported. Let me check this again, the version. So let's check the pub spec again. Okay, now the error is gone. This was not imported properly. This happens a few times. All you have to do is run the Flutter pubget again. So I think it will work now. So let's run this. We are pretty much done with everything. Now let's run this and see how the UI looks, and then we can make changes to that. And if something's not working, then we can debug that. let's some height and width for our button as well. Let's take 50 and that can be 100. So the on text is here. Let's color this. Color start. Let's take pink. So you can have different shades of the color by just these square brackets, and as you can see there's 50, 100, 200 and 300, so you can have different shades. So color should be here. To restart the application. There seems to be some error here. Let's try to fix that. So it's correct. I think everything is right. There's no error from. Let me check my code again. The on-press even seems to be correct. You know what the problem is. Okay, let me just switch to my Is everything clear so far? If anyone has any questions, then I can take that up for now. Till the time I just figure out what I did wrong. Seems to be correct. If anyone has any questions, they can put that in chat. Uh, it's not necessary to have the material app for the quest page because in the main.dart it is I'm just answering the question which is there in the chat. So when we are running this main app, then we need to have a material, we need to wrap our widgets inside material app, but for other screens it's not necessary to have it. So we can even have scaffold and then navigate to that screen. So let's close this and run it again. So yeah. So yeah, this is the basically this is like now let's click on get started. Okay. So yeah, as you can see, when we click on stack and this, then we get this tick mark, and uh, when we get the wrong answer, then this appears. This is the alert box that we had. So anyone has any questions? I will share the code. I will push this on GitHub and then share it. So if anyone has any questions, then I can take that up. Otherwise, that's what the app was all about. And if you need the code, then you can contact me, or we will try to put this in the description box so you can get the code from there. And I hope this webinar was helpful. You learned a bit about Flutter. It was a bit heavy for beginners, I can say that, because there were a lot of things. We worked on stateless widgets, stateful widget, and a lot of logic and everything. So yeah, it would be better if you go through the code again and try to experiment with it. Maybe what you can do with this code is you can have different levels. like you can have you can add more questions to it. And when we click on get started, then maybe the next screen can be the level screen, where you can have level 1, level 2, level 3, and then you can have questions according to the difficulty and have more questions as well, and work on a little bit on the design. So I hope everyone learned a lot, and you all will be building this application, build a Harry Potter quiz or a Star Wars quiz or anything. So you can find the code later, and if you build something, then do let us know. Tag UAceIt, tag me on Twitter, and share the screenshots of the app that you built. So yeah, that was all about the Flutter application and Flutter and everything. So yeah, thank you everyone. Yeah, so let's wind up now. You can just follow the UAceIt on Twitter. They do a lot of webinars like this. So yeah, okay, bye everyone.